I know everybody's really excited about the inauguration. I've withheld my commentary. I will continue to do so. Mary, good evening from California. I might do a video on some other social media platform. I'm not advertising social media platform. That's against the rule. But I do want to offer my opinion somewhere about it. But things seem somewhat calmer. Hopefully they remain that way. But I just don't believe in the idea of no external savior coming in and swooping in and saving the day. I believe that people still have a lot of work to do on ourselves. We have a lot of community building to do. There's a lot that we have to work on. I don't want nobody to start thinking that because Joe Biden's in office and Trump isn't there that everything's going to just change. Have to be realistic. Joe Biden is not he's not nobody's savior. He doesn't look at what he has in front of him. Really the power is in the people. Always has been, always will be. But we just forget that. So I'm getting close to the 6-minute mark. So I'm going to hop in a couple of seconds. I hope everybody's ready. Matter of fact, let's start now. Let's start now. Because first of all, let me just offer my apology to everybody. And the reason why I say that is because I'm completely insane. I'm out of my mind. When I decided to do this particular live stream, I wanted to do it on Indra's net, which is a symbol in spiritual Hinduism. But I wanted to do it about like fractals in the universe. I wanted to do it about the holographic universe. There's so much I wanted to include. And I always start off with huge, grandiose ideas. And then before the live stream, I have to boil everything down and simplify it because I realize that I'm thinking too damn big for a 45-minute or 1-hour live stream. So one of these days, I'm going to take all these huge ideas that I got and try to write a book or something. So I'm apologizing to y'all because I think I have something that's very substantive here. But in my mind, I wanted to give y'all so much more. But I just don't have the time, and I really wanted to give y'all something that was scientific. Like, this is very spiritual and it's very social, but I wanted to give y'all more of the scientifics and the mathematics of the fractal universe theory and all of that stuff. But I didn't have enough time. I got all kinds of books about it. I printed all kinds of stuff online about it. I have nowhere near enough time to go through all of that. So I think maybe one of these days in the future, I'll go back. I'll come back and I'll do like another live stream where I go a little bit deeper into Indra's net and atoms and atomic weight and all that stuff. So I really wanted to hit y'all with the scientific aspect of it. But this is definitely Ellen. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that when I have more time to actually study and put it together. Because I really wanted to. There's so much I wanted to say. There's so much I wanted to cite. But I'm like, man, I only got 45 minutes. I barely had any time to sit still this week, but I'm gonna come back and throw all the science and math into it in the future. But let's get started. So Indra's net, and I wrote out a little bit that I want to read to you guys as I begin. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Okay, so Indra's net. The god Indra is a storm god and a magician in Hinduism. He had a beautiful palace on Mount Meru, which is in India, or was in India. The gods would journey there to see his throne, the ornate statues, the decorations, because it was so breathtaking. The most beautiful part of the palace was the garden. And in the garden there were flowers of every variety. There were beautiful butterflies. There were insects that you never see anywhere else on earth. It was very beautiful. It was warm. It was exotic. It was the most beautiful garden in all of creation. But the centerpiece of the garden was a vast and seemingly infinite net. and at each point of the net where the threads intersect was a jewel polished to perfection. And each jewel was so flawless and was so shiny that it would reflect all the other jewels in the net. So imagine that, looking at this huge net made out of thread and made out of jewels, with all the threads of the net intersect. You see a jewel, and all the jewels were so perfect that when you look at one jewel, you'll literally see all of them. Like looking at an infinite mirror, but literally seeing an infinite mirror in each and every jewel. Now, that is a symbol that they had in Hinduism for our reality. But I want to go a little bit more in depth about what is Indra's net. In the Atharva Veda. Now, the Vedas are the Hindu scriptures that are sacred, and they are Gitas, they are Vedas. But the Atharva Veda is one of the older ones. I think it was probably like 1,000 years BC. What I think the text said it was written. And it's a quote that says, "The great world is the power net of Indra, greater than great, and by that Indra net of boundless reach, I hold all those enemies with dark cover of vision, mind, and senses." So essentially what it's saying is that Indra's net is all of reality. And the net itself holds us prisoner by our own body and our own mind. So the fact that we can see the net, the fact that the net affects our mind, and it affects our senses. Therefore we are entrapped in this whole world, this illusory world of the net, Indra's net. We are trapped in this world because of our reaction to the world. Our senses hold us prisoner. Our mind holds us prisoner. And it's difficult to break free because we're all trapped inside of Indra's net, because we believe that it's real. We believe in what we see. And so we see Indra's net, right? We believe in what our senses tell us because our senses communicate to us so quickly. And if you don't train the mind, what happens is whatever your senses tell you, you feel it's 100% real. You never question what your senses will tell you. That's why there's the old saying, seeing is believing. If you see something, if you smell it, if you taste it, you think that it's 100% real. That's the test. It's the litmus test for reality. And so we find ourselves in these situations where someone can cast a vast illusion all around us and make us dedicate ourselves to this fake reality. And that's what's happening to us now. We're bound inside of a fake reality, not only a fake reality based upon what we see on TV and what's happening in politics, but we actually create a fake reality for ourselves. Our senses are influenced by impulses that are coming from within us, not just outside of us. What's happening outside of us quite often is neither good or bad, but our internal perception of it is what guides our behavior. So we are sustaining the illusion of Indra's net all around us. Indra's net is ensnaring our spirit or our consciousness. Indra's net is the world holding in our spirit and our consciousness. And what is the net? Well, the net can be many things. There's many perceptions of what the net of Indra could possibly be. One of the things that I think Indra's net definitely is our trauma. So much of our perception of reality is based on trauma. And I'm speaking as a person who's going through trauma myself. I found myself in a lot of situations where I may have overreacted, or I might have had a muted reaction and held back from truly reacting because of trauma. My perception of how dangerous a situation can be is based upon things that I went through in the past. And trauma is so powerful that it not only alters how you think, but it has an immediate impact on your body. So you can find yourself in a particular situation where there's no danger, right? But your body will respond as if there is. Even before the mind can properly respond, the body is responding to danger that's not even there. It's responding to situations that are not even there. And if you're going through really intense trauma, you can sit next to a person and feel a threat. Somebody can give you a hug, and you can feel like they're threatening you. Someone can say your name in a wrong tone of voice, and you can feel like there's a rejection coming, or you feel like there's an argument coming. So your body responds, and you feel like you have to respond with anger before you even fully understand what's happening around you. So your trauma is a part of Indra's net. I've seen kids, and I work with kids who've been severely traumatized. You know, I've heard some horror stories. You know, I've heard stories about young kids whose mothers tried to kill them. Exactly, they were triggers. So imagine you're a young man whose mom is the first person to ever give you drugs. How can you ever trust another adult ever again? How can you trust, and I don't mean no disrespect, but quite often a lot of these kids walk around with these issues with women. They can't trust women. They're trapped in Indra's net. They feel like every woman is a representation of that original mother figure who tried to hurt them or kill them or become addicted to drugs. Epigenetics, yeah, that's a part of it. But we're talking about something that's not even really physically genetic. What we're really talking about is just mental perception right now. But we can definitely get into the epigenetics conversation as well. Attachment disorders, yes. And these individuals who have gone through trauma, they think that these threats are 100% real. And they respond as if every single instance where they think there's a threat, they respond as if they have to use complete and total maximum force. So you can have a kid who's been through serious trauma as a child, and you can say, "Hey, how you doing?" You can go out to shake their hand. They turn their back and don't want to speak to you because they immediately see you just, "Hey, what's going on?" They see that as a threat because they've been beat by their fathers or beat by their mothers, or every time they let their guard down to be close to somebody, they see an immediate threat where there is no threat. And that makes it very difficult for them to connect with other human beings. And so they become trapped as these solitary creatures within Indra's net. Trauma is probably the most serious snare in Indra's net. And I've seen it and I've dealt with it myself. We are also ensnared in Indra's net by our emotions. Quite often we find ourselves in situations where we're very, very emotional, so we can't see reality. You can't see reality when you're in a blind rage. You can see a situation that triggers you or sets you off, but if you're in a blind rage, you can't see what's really happening around you. You can't see. I've been through serious depression. You can't see reality when you're depressed. Somebody can come up to you and say, "Hey, Devin, what's up?" and walk the other way. You're like, "Oh, the way that person said it, they obviously don't like me. That person is rejecting me. I'm depressed, and so the way I perceive everything is based upon people rejecting me, people don't like me, people wish I wasn't here, people wish I was dead." Somebody could just say, "Hey, Devin, I'll see you later, man." And I'm like, "Oh man, they brush me off. They don't care about me. They wish I was dead." Somebody could crack a joke the wrong way. I gotta stay away from this individual. I gotta stay away from this person because, they don't like me. Or you could be in a relationship with somebody who really truly loves you, but you can't experience that love because you're sitting there waiting to be rejected. Adverse childhood experiences can affect you long after young. Absolutely, baby. You're 100% correct. As a matter of fact, they can shape your entire adulthood if you don't become mindful. If you don't become mindful, become more aware of yourself and your ability to overcome these things, you'll be trapped for life. And I've seen a lot of individuals who end up trapped for life from things that happened to them when they were 4 or 5. Or some individuals who had negative experiences before they could even speak. And then they grow up and they can't remember the experience, but they are experiencing the changes that they experience as heat on them. So that's why self-awareness is mindfulness is something that I teach so passionately, simply because it's the only thing that can really set you free. Mindfulness creates a space in between your emotional reaction and your physical reaction. Now, if you're traumatized, they're right here. So as soon as I feel something, I have to respond to it. There's a threat. And if there's a threat, you can't hesitate and wait or think about it. Mindfulness allows you to free yourself from that. You're free now from the trauma. You're free now from the negative emotions because mindfulness creates that space of calm where you can look at the situation and you can look at your possible reaction and you can decide, I'm not going to react this way. I'm mindful now, so I'm able to choose. And I realize as you get deeper into mindfulness, you realize the universe is infinite, so my choices are infinite. I don't have to respond a particular way in a certain situation. There's infinite choices. And some of those choices can be lonely, aggressive, violent, traumatized, emotional, and some of those choices can be very, very calm, very, very respectful, and actually elevate me and empower me. And even if somebody's coming at me in a negative way, I can still respond in a way where I can empower myself and empower the person who's trying to hurt me. All because of mindfulness. Free from negative thinking, Scott, 100% correct. If you're lonely, right? Loneliness is an emotion. How many times have we found ourselves lonely, reaching out to somebody who we know is not good for us, but we convince ourselves as we're texting or as we're calling or as we're sending that email, we convinced ourselves this person is great for me. This is a wonderful person. This is somebody I should reach out to. Haven't spoken to her in a while. How many times we did that? Haven't spoken to him in a while. You sending them, you all up in their DMs trying to contact them, even though you know for a fact, in the back of your mind, you know for a fact you shouldn't reach out to them, right? But your emotions have blinded you. You're caught in Indra's net, and the emotion of loneliness is causing you to behave in a manner you know is not beneficial to you. You're trapped in this world of illusion. And guess what the illusion is? The illusion isn't outside, the illusion is inside. Your emotions have become an internal Indra's net. Your false reasoning. Many of us were educated to think that some things are real. And the foundation of our reality has been so deeply integrated into us and ingrained in us and indoctrinated in us from an early age that we go our whole lives believing things that are completely asinine, completely unreal, and all of our behavior is driven by these ideas. Right? Like, for instance, the concept of race. Like, what exactly does that mean? There's no real scientific basis for the idea of race. There are certain individuals who have certain genetic traits and other individuals who might not have those traits. But the idea of a white race, a black race, these things is not really real. As a matter of fact, if you go back and you study the history of the concept of quote-unquote whiteness, it's a pretty recent concept. Human beings have been on this planet for millennia. And some of our spiritual teachers teach that human beings have been on this planet for billions of years. Some of our other spiritual teachers in the black community teach that human beings have been on the planet for trillions of years. And in all that time, the idea of a black and a white person wasn't around. It wasn't until slavery really came about. We started to categorize people based upon who's white and who's black. And even our ideas about who's white and who's black, even those ideas are false. If you study the history of the idea of whiteness, in the early days of America, there are certain people, Sicilians, Italians, Greeks, the Scottish, the Irish, they weren't considered white people until I think after World War II. And that's when they were given the social categorization of being white. There's a famous case of a Japanese man named, whose last name was Ozawa versus the United States of America. Well, he actually went to the Supreme Court because he was a Japanese man who had read somewhere that Japanese people are categorized ethnically as Caucasian. So imagine that. You're a Japanese man who's alive in the 1800s. You don't have certain rights. You can't own land, right? So he went to the Supreme Court. He said, listen, this book says that I'm Caucasian, so technically I'm white, so I want the same rights as a white person. And he went to court, and there was a person in the court, a white judge, who told him, what are you talking about? You're not white. So he said, okay, what makes you white? What makes me not white? And the judge said, well, it's the common sense of a white man who decides who's white and who's not. So in other words, he was basically saying it's totally arbitrary. It makes no sense. Middle Eastern is considered Caucasian today by government? Yeah. At one point in time, they were not. Believe me. At one point in time, Middle Eastern was not considered Caucasian. And even now in America, a lot of people still don't consider Middle Eastern Caucasian. Remember, not too long ago, we had to deal with serious Islamophobia and serious phobia of individuals from the Middle East after 9/11. So you see how these concepts keep changing? At one point in time, now they consider Middle Eastern individuals to be Caucasian. Back then, after 9/11, you were not considered Caucasian if you were Middle Eastern. So we created this Indra's net of racism that is psychologically ensnaring all of us and destroying all of us. But we were taught this at an early age. And so our entire reality is based upon these concepts that ain't real. And people who can get killed, murdered, thrown in jail, stabbed, shot, have their land taken away, all based upon these illusory concepts. That's Indra's net. We're ensnared in these concepts that are completely false and completely illusory. They mean absolutely nothing to nature. Nature doesn't care. But because we're stuck in Indra's net, we're going against the very functions of nature and the very functions of the universe. It's bizarre. But that's what happens when you're stuck in Indra's net. Your people will go to war. People will murder. They'll kill because of Indra's net. Because of the illusory world that they're given. We're given this illusory world, and if they give it to us early enough, before our mind begins to fully function, we fully begin to understand and lay down a solid foundation of thought, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and you'll believe in this lie. You'll believe in the illusion. You'll think the illusion is the only thing that really matters. And you'll evaluate everything else based on the illusion. Politics. Indra's net. And it's amazing how media is being utilized more and more in politics now, where you can have individuals who are completely against the people. But because they serve a particular purpose to corporations, these individuals will be put up as heroes, as saviors of the people. Invigorating to hear. Thank you, Teresa. I really appreciate it. So you'll have an individual who's completely deceptive, portrayed as the savior of the people, and be put up on a pedestal, and he'll be awarded, or she'll be awarded for her efforts. Meanwhile, she'll be setting up laws and writing policies and passing legislation that will massacre people. That's Indra's net, the illusion. And some individuals know how to manipulate the illusion just right. Lust, fear. There's a lot of different things that are existing within us and all around us that can be very manipulated. I know individuals who grew up with a friend of mine who was addicted to pornography. So him watching porn all the time and being stuck in that world gave him a completely false sense of how human beings interact, how they have sexual intercourse, how they speak to each other, how they bring up the topic of sex. And even to this day, this is a close friend of mine, he still has issues with trying to make the connection in a healthy way. But he's stuck in Indra's net in his way. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental fashion or anything either. I'm definitely a flawed person myself. I've dealt with Indra's net myself. I've been trying to escape it for a very long time. But when you become addicted to something, and lust is insane, because lust is biological. It's a biological urge to want to be with somebody on a physical level, but that biological urge can actually be manipulated and conditioned in a way where it can become unhealthy. That's Indra's net. Another thing that's Indra's net, and we have to be very, very aware of, the internet. The internet is Indra's net. It rhymes. If anybody's an MC, write that down. Anybody here rap? Anybody here a hip hop head? Write that down. The internet is Indra's net. The internet consistently feeds people so many different perceptions and perspectives, but these different perspectives don't come from experts. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has something they want to say. Everybody feels like a star because of the internet and social media. But the thing about it is that in order to be the center of attention on certain topics, you had to be an expert. You had to have some kind of certification or some kind of a degree, or you had to prove yourself in some way, shape, or form. You had to prove that you were a genius, prove that you were certified, prove that you could properly pass on this information and understand it. Nowadays, you don't have to. You just have an opinion and start a YouTube channel and spew hate all day. And then individuals who hate the same way you hate, they hate the same people, they'll follow you. And they'll put you up on the pedestal. And you'll be their God. But at the same time, these individuals are stuck themselves. They're stuck in this world that is completely illusion. They live in a lie. They live in an illusion. And I'm not trying to knock anybody, but look at what was happening with all these individuals who were listening to Trump and QAnon and Alex Jones. They were ready and willing to fight, kill, and die over Indra's net, over these illusions that they think are real that are not real. And now at this moment, I want to take a moment to shout out some of the conspiracy theorists. Because some of the conspiracy theorists was proven right in 2020. A lot of the stuff people said was crazy and wacky throughout the 80s and 90s. 2020 showed all that stuff was real. Shout out to Reverend Phil Valentine, a very famous speaker from the black community. He was talking about extraterrestrials and other dimensions for a long time. And now in 2020, they found out that there's another dimension where time runs backwards, and yes, UFOs are real. And they're piloted by black people. Dr. Blair, okay. I see you, Jay. But even that's Indra's net. The conspiracy theory world can reveal truth, but it can also be Indra's net too. I used to look at a lot of that stuff, and I would study esoteric knowledge, and then things would go a little too far down a rabbit hole, and I would have to fall back. Like, okay, it's getting a little bit too weird now. I didn't want to get caught up in Indra's net and be one of those individuals who couldn't connect with reality because I believed in so much conspiracy stuff. But moving forward, and this is not to insult anybody, but your religion is Indra's net. For a lot of people, religion keeps you away from true spirituality. And because somebody comes along and says, this is the absolute truth and anything beyond this is a lie, it keeps you away from information and other experiences that can help you have a closer relationship to your God. But we're so afraid of the other. We're so afraid of anybody else who has a different name. Now, for instance, the name Allah. Exactly, Teresa. All religions, exactly. The name Allah. Now, I've heard so many Christians and Hebrews say that the name Allah is the name of a false god. Right? The name Allah is the name of a false god. But then I found out the word Allah just means God. And there are Arabic Christians who refer to the God in the Bible as Allah. So it's all just one God. But we're all caught in Indra's net, so they think that you're worshiping a whole different God, and so what if you are, but you're worshiping a whole different God, so they see you as the enemy. And it's not really about religion at all. Only lay people think it's about religion. It's really about geopolitics. If it wasn't about land, nobody would care. If it wasn't about people taking over land and resources, nobody would even care. There's a lot of people who worship a variety of God concepts. They include a variety of rituals into their personal lives, and if it's not about land, you don't care. You only care when it's about politics, money, and missiles. But that's Indra's net. All based upon a religious concept that my idea of God is the only one that's accurate and the only one that works. And everybody else is wrong. And if they're wrong, I have the power to take the land from them, and I will. They're not human because they don't worship the same God as me. And I'll kill them. Because my God wants me to. That's the ultimate Indra's net. That's the ultimate Indra's net right there. Even more powerful than trauma, I think, is religion. Earlier, I said I think trauma was the most powerful. Now I think about it, I think religion is the most powerful. Absolutely. I've seen traumatized individuals hurt other people. But I don't know if I've ever seen an individual, because of trauma, kill like a church full of individuals, or a mosque full of individuals, or a cathedral, or a synagogue. Because of trauma, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Because of religion, yeah. But not because of trauma. So yeah, I think religion is probably the most powerful in this net. And we build our lives on these falsehoods, and every falsehood reflects another, creating a reality that ensnares us. School. Ooh, Brooke. Brooke came in with the slam dunk. I didn't even think about that one. Salute to Brooke. Everybody give Brooke a round of applause. I wasn't even thinking about schools. You brought it even deeper. Because schools are a major part in the indoctrination of people. Yep, money, another one, another snare. The Indra's net. Thank you, Mary. You're absolutely right. Our schools take our kids' young minds and indoctrinate them with a false sense of everything. A false sense of purpose, a false sense of history. I remember when I was a young kid in school, I had saw the Malcolm X movie. They took us to see the Malcolm X movie on a field trip. And none of my white teachers wanted to go. They were so mad. They were so angry about it. So we went to go see the Malcolm X movie. And I remember I came back to the school, and there was a scene where Malcolm X was talking about black people's history. So I asked my teacher name was Mr. Quagley, an older Italian guy. And I said, that movie was really, really good, Mr. Quag. What were black people doing before slavery? Because Malcolm X had said something about pre-colonial or pre-slavery or something like that. So I asked my teacher, I said, what were black people doing before slavery? And he said, your history starts with slavery. Now, I know that in school they taught us that black people were the first ones on planet Earth, but they were simultaneously teaching us that we were the last ones with any kind of advancements or any kind of contribution to the world. So imagine what that does to a young kid's mind when somebody tells you that your people were the first ones here, but you didn't create anything or build anything. Your history don't start till slavery. That was crazy to hear. And luckily for me, I was very fortunate. I was always around. I always had a mind of my own, and I was always around very wise individuals. And back then in Hartford, Connecticut, where I'm from, it was cool. It was like, if anybody has ever read about like high civilizations, like Spain under the Moors, or if you read about ancient Egypt, or if you read about how it was in the old days in front of the Jewish temples, how there would always be teachers walking around. And if you think about ancient India, you always had these teachers. It was like that in Hartford, Connecticut. Believe it or not, when I was a young kid, we had individuals who were 5%ers, Nation of Islam. We had individuals who were in, they used to call it the Holy Tabernacle Ministries. They changed the name to the Wahabians. You had individuals who were Rastafarians. You had individuals who were Hebrew Israelites. So there was all these individuals walking around all the time teaching. Like literally just walking around teaching. And then there would be sometimes where there was these two Rastafarian brothers who would stand on the street corner in downtown Hartford next to the bus stop, just screaming at the top of their lungs trying to teach the people. So luckily for me, I never got caught in that aspect of Indra's net, because there was always individuals around me who were trying to get through and teach me. So I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful I didn't get stuck in Indra's net on that. But let's look a little bit deeper, because a lot of us are stuck in Indra's net, and just like you see that little perfect jewel that reflects all the other jewels in the net, I want to talk a little bit about, very briefly, about how that's true of us when we look at our lives. Like for instance, there's a guy who said, how you do one thing is how you do all things. Right? Now think about your life and the things you complain about in your life. I'm pretty sure you can take these same complaints and apply them to everything. I'll take my car. Simple. I'll take my car. My car is a mess. It gets the job done. It gets me wherever I gotta go. It's never left me stranded unless it was like a real bad situation. My car get the job done. But it's not organized, it's not clean, it's functional. Now I can say the same thing about my work area right here in my room. Is my life a mess? To an extent it is. I won't say it's a complete mess, but it is disorganized. And like I was saying, you look at my workspace in my room, it's functional. Got my candles here, I got my tablet right here talking to you guys, I got my phone over here filming it. I got everything I need right here, but it's disorganized. Same thing with how I was running my business. For a while, I was running my business in a very disorganized way. I was putting the work in. I've never been a lazy person. I know where everything is. You right about that. I do know where everything is. I don't lose things very easily because I always put everything in the exact same spot. But still, I need to organize it a little bit better. So if you look at one aspect of it, see how, like Indra's net, you look at one aspect of my life and then it reflects every other aspect of my life. Life does get messy. But at the same time, individuals who are organized organized in one thing are typically going to be organized in a lot more things than I am. And that's what I want you guys to take from this, for the most part, is that if there's an aspect of your life that's not working for you, I'm pretty sure it reflects itself in every other aspect of your life. If you're messy with your relationships with men or women, then you're going to be messy with your relationship with family, and that's going to affect your kids, and it's going to affect your friendships, right? But if you're a person who has very great relationships with your mother and your father, that's going to reflect itself in all the other relationships in your life. So what I really want to talk about was butterfly effect. We're all trapped in Indra's net, but if Indra's net connects us, it connects every aspect of our lives, then if we make one small change in our perception, one small change in our thinking and our habits, we can create a larger change that can begin a slow process of giving us more power within this illusion of Indra's net. Make one small change and you can change everything. And it's important that we change our minds. I tell everybody, and I'm going to say this and probably annoy some people right now. I tell everybody, TV is so powerful. TV puts so much negativity into our minds. And I really noticed that, I don't even know if I should say this, but I noticed that with a lot of women I've dealt with over the years, they watch TV, they see something on TV, and then it begins to affect how they see what's going on. Exactly, it's programming. It begins to affect how they see things going on around them. And then the TV affects how they talk, how they express themselves. It impacts how they see sex and relationships. A lot of us are having a hard time finding happiness because TV is programming us to think that things are supposed to make us happy. So when you get those things and you're not happy, it's baffling. You've been conditioned your whole life to think that, I'm insecure, I'm a warrior, I'm stressed out, but if I find the right person, everything's gonna be fine. And if you find who you think is the right person, and you're still emotionally unbalanced and unstable. But my whole life I've been taught that marriage is gonna solve everything, and it don't. But that's the programming. That's the trouble with television. It puts so much illusion into your consciousness. Or we think once I get some money, everything will be great. And then you see how many rock and roll stars get money, but they've been going through depression their whole lives, and so they become drug addicts and they OD. We lost Pimp C, Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, Kurt Cobain, Shannon Hoon. We lost a lot of great artists to drugs. A lot. Prince. I didn't even know Prince. I thought Prince was like a straight arrow. I heard he was a vegan. I heard he didn't drink, or he stopped drinking and everything. But come to find out, he died because of drugs. So there's a lot going on that's programming our people and putting us into this illusory world, and it's dominating our mind and dominating our thoughts. So once you regain your mind by turning the TV off, it helps you to see beyond Indra's neck, and then you can make small changes in how you think. Because how you think influences everything. I've been in situations where everything was falling apart and I was able to remain calm simply because I had learned to master my mind. That's what 2020 was about. 2020 for me was about learning how to master your mind. Once I learned how to master my mind, I could be in pretty tough and challenging situations, but I feel like a sense of cool, a sense of detachment. I'm not attached to the outcome, so I can just cruise through it. And I understand things from multiple perspectives all at once because I learned how to master my mind. Alright, what is going on here? The only naming the black people, you people are the joke. I didn't see what was said. But hopefully nobody's saying nothing that's silly and racist. Y'all should know better than that. We don't play that here. Anyhow, let's continue. So that's another thing we can change. Once you change your mind, change your habits. Once you learn how to change your habits, that makes a big impact in your life. And that can help you begin the process of you can begin the process of escaping from Indra's net. What habits do you have? Like one day, take a real good look at the habits that you have. How do you spend your money? That's one of the habits I have to really take a look at and analyze. How much time are you spending with nature? How much time are you spending reading? How much time are you spending around positive individuals? Now, see, the thing about it is, because of quarantine, they just named black artists that influenced them. Oh, okay. Alright. That's cool. But yeah, like I was saying, because of quarantine, it's hard to spend time around a lot of people, but they have all these new apps now that you can use. You can have Zoom meetings with your nieces and nephews. They got this new app called, Clubhouse or something like that. And you can just talk to your friends in Clubhouse. You can have a Google Meet with somebody. You can FaceTime. There's a lot of ways you can communicate with individuals. And the cool thing about it is now, because so many people are stuck indoors, now there's a lot of online content that you can get. What online content are you looking at? Are you looking at the scandalous stuff? You're looking at the rumors? You're looking at the celebrity rumors, who's dating who's cheating with who? Or are you looking at stuff that can help you grow? Are you listening to stuff that's positive and affirming? What are you putting into your mind? What habits are you developing? What do you do when you wake up in the morning? What's your first thought? Do you set goals? Do you have a daily schedule? Do you sit down every single day and come up with a list of things that have to get done? Are you moving forward? Or are you simply getting up and going through a routine where your habits are not healthy, or they might not be unhealthy, but they might be completely neutral, so you're not moving forward? Change your habits. Once you change your mind, change your habits, and then you begin to make the process of changing your life and gaining control over your life. Knowledge. What knowledge do you have, and how do you gain knowledge? Now, typically, what we tend to do is we'll find a couple of sources that we feel are credible, and we always go back to those same sources. And I've done that as well too. So every now and again, it's good to look outside of your normal range of sources And once you go outside and you go through the normal range, outside your normal range of sources, you begin to gather new information. And that expands your consciousness. Even if you don't agree with it, still listen to things that are different from what you normally would listen to once in a while. And you'll be surprised at how much you could possibly grow. How much this information, like for instance, I started listening to a lot of business stuff. I have a business, but I was running my business based off of, esoteric spirituality as opposed to paperwork. I hate paperwork, but I love talking to people. So I had to start listening to a lot of business stuff, looking into forex trading, looking into stocks, learning about this kind of stuff, trying to figure out ways to generate more income. And I feel powerful learning this new stuff because it's opened up the doors in my mind. It gives me new possibilities so I can escape the Indra's net of poverty. So it's good to get new knowledge so you can see things from a new perspective and escape from where you're trapped at. And then goals. Goals are very powerful. When you set certain goals, these goals actually can influence you. Your goals can actually change you. Before you even take one step to achieve your goals, you can set a goal, and just by setting that goal, you end up changing how you think. But I think it's important. Lastly, I want to point out, Indra's net itself is an illusion. You have the power to make your own reality. See, when you're not using your mind and when you don't have mindfulness and self-awareness, you're trapped in a reality that's handed to you by somebody else. When you were born, you're stuck in a reality handed to you by somebody else. Yes, I am writing a book for kids. Yes, I am. Working on that too. Alright, so what I want you guys to listen to before I hang up is, before I stop, there's a scripture in the Bible that had a real big impact on me. Now, before I go into the scripture, I want to say that years ago while meditating, something occurred to me. We don't really see the outside world. Your brain is stuck in this airtight box that you call your skull, and it has no contact with the outside world as long as everything goes according to plan. What your brain does is it takes signals from the eyes, signals from the eardrum, signals from your tongue, signals from your hands, signals from your skin, and it kind of sort of takes these signals and interprets them as your reality. None of us are seeing anything. I'm sitting in a room right now, these walls are here, candles are here, I'm seeing light, but my brain is not seeing any of this. My brain is actually kind of sort of making it up. Just like you, your brain is kind of sort of making it up. And we all agree upon the same stories, and we agree upon the same cultural ideas and the same symbols, so we all kind of think the same. We're co-creating the same reality, and we agree upon it. That's really what all of this is. Our culture, TV, all of that stuff, programming, conditioning, all of it is really just getting us to agree upon the same reality. Right? So there's a scripture in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and verse 2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. What I want you guys to understand is that you're doing that right now. The Bible is, for me, kind of a story about humanity and the journey of the spirit trapped in three-dimensional reality. So right now, your spirit is trapped in three-dimensional reality, and just like God said, let there be light, you have that capacity too. Because the scriptures say that God breathed the breath of life into you. He breathed a piece of himself into you. So you have God within you as well. So as we're walking through this formless void that we call our reality, we're shaping it as we go without realizing it. Yes, Teresa, the light is inside you. The spirit is inside of you. So see yourself the same way. See yourself as a divine being, as a beautiful being who has the capacity given to you by the Supreme Creator to create your reality. Say, let there be light. How many times have we ever said that? Say that one day. Let there be light. And use that light as a means of shining your consciousness onto your reality. See yourself in that sense. See yourself as a creator, not a responder. You don't have to respond to the reality that other people are handing to you. You have the capacity to change the reality. That's why media is so powerful and so dangerous, because they're shoving all this political stuff down our throats, and military and bombs and missiles and history and Everybody's living someone else's reality. Imagine if you saw yourself as an individual with the power to change your reality. Not just respond to it, but you can change it and create it. It says the Spirit of God moved over the surface of the deep. That means the Spirit of God moved over the surface of the waters. Your body is 70% water with a spirit within it. This is a story about your capacity. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical, narcissistic way. I'm not saying it in that way. But I'm saying look at yourself as being a replica of that. Now that's a divine version of Indra's net. You are a reflection of that divinity. All of us are. That's how I want you to see yourself. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna wrap it up right about now. It's getting a little late here. It's midnight now. So before we go, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. If anybody felt this, or you feel the spirit move you, if you feel inspired by it, you feel a sense of love and empowerment by it, feel free to drop a little something in the donation pot. I appreciate every single nickel and dime. Every donation is going to, I'm saving up the money so I can try to publish a book. I've got some updates about me putting the book together, which I'll share with you guys next week. And hopefully I'll see you guys again next week. Every Wednesday night we do 10-10 and 11-11 unless something happens. So I will see you guys again 10-10 next week, 11-11 next week. Peace and blessings. Scott, I appreciate it. Evie, thank you. Justin, thank you. Favorite Diva, I see you every week. Thank you. It's a blessing to always have you here. Judy, thank you. Sarah, thank you. Mary, good to see you. Brooke, good to see you. Thank you guys so much. Peace and blessings. Spread the love, spread the joy. And I appreciate every donation. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you next week.